Hello everyone, imagine waking up one morning to discover that an entire town had vanished. No people, no sounds of life, not even a trace of where they had gone. Just silence, abandoned homes, and questions that would haunt history forever. This is not the plot of a horror film or a novel. It is the chilling real-life mystery of Hoer Verde, a Brazilian village that reportedly disappeared in 1923, leaving nothing behind but fear and unanswered questions. The story begins in the lush greenery of Brazil, where small villages dotted the landscape, many of them remote and isolated. Among these was Hoer Verde, a settlement said to have been home to around 600 people. Life there, by most accounts, was simple. Families lived off the land, children played in the dusty roads, and neighbors shared food, stories, and music. It was a community like any other, tightly knit and self-sustaining. But what happened in 1923 shattered every sense of normalcy. When a group of travelers arrived at Hoer Verde, they expected to be welcomed by the villagers, offered food, or at least hear the sounds of life. Instead, what greeted them was eerie silence. The homes were standing, but the windows were dark. The doors were left ajar, food sat on tables as if meals had been interrupted, and belongings remained scattered as though life had stopped in an instant. Yet not a single person was found, man, woman, or child. The entire village had disappeared without warning. What made the discovery even stranger was that there were no signs of violence, no bodies, no evidence of disease, no bloodshed, and no mass graves. It wasn't as if the villagers had been attacked or fled in panic. Their belongings remained, their lives seemingly paused, but they themselves had vanished. To this day, the story of Hoer Verde remains one of the most baffling mysteries in South American folklore. Now, let's take a closer look at the timeline of this strange disappearance. Reports vary, but most accounts agree that the incident occurred in 1923. Some claim that it was a group of travelers who stumbled upon the empty village. Others suggest it was Brazilian soldiers who came across the ghost town while passing through the area. The soldiers, according to legend, were stunned by the silence. They searched every home, every alleyway, and every field, but the villagers were simply gone. The strangest detail comes from what the soldiers allegedly found painted on a chalkboard in the local schoolhouse. Written in Portuguese were the words, "There is no salvation." That cryptic message only deepened the mystery. Was it a warning, a farewell, or perhaps a sign that the villagers had been swept into something beyond comprehension? Theories about what happened to Hoer Verde range from the rational to the paranormal, each one attempting to explain how 600 people could vanish without a trace. Some historians believe the disappearance may have been linked to political unrest. In 1923, Brazil was undergoing a turbulent period, with revolts and conflicts erupting in different regions. It's possible that the villagers abandoned Hoer Verde to escape the violence. But if they had left voluntarily, why did they leave so suddenly, without taking their possessions, food, or even livestock? And why leave behind such a haunting message on the chalkboard? Another theory suggests that disease may have played a role. In the early 20th century, outbreaks of illness were not uncommon in rural areas of Brazil. But again, this explanation doesn't hold up. If disease had struck the village, there would have been bodies, or at least evidence of illness. The absence of both makes this theory difficult to accept. Then there are the darker, more mysterious explanations, theories that plunge Hoer Verde into the realm of the supernatural. Some believe the villagers were victims of alien abduction, taken en masse by beings from another world. Others speculate that Hoer Verde was swallowed by a time slip, with the villagers transported into another dimension or another era entirely. These theories may sound far-fetched, but when faced with a mystery so complete, people often turn to the unknown for answers. To understand the weight of this mystery, we must compare it to other infamous disappearances in history. One of the most well-known is the lost colony of Roanoke in the United States, where an entire settlement vanished in the late 1500s, leaving behind only the cryptic word Croatoan carved into a post. Similarly, the village of Anjikuni in Canada was reported to have disappeared in the 1930s, with every inhabitant gone and meals left unfinished. These eerie parallels make Hoer Verde part of a broader pattern of unexplained mass vanishings that have fascinated and terrified people for centuries. The deeper you look into the story of Hoer Verde, the more unsettling it becomes. Imagine standing in the middle of that silent village, surrounded by empty homes and unfinished meals, trying to piece together what happened. The absence of life would weigh heavily on your chest. Every creak of wood, every whisper of wind would feel like a ghostly reminder of the hundreds of voices that once filled the air. But here's where the mystery deepens even further. Some researchers argue that the story of Hoer Verde might be nothing more than a legend, a piece of folklore that grew over time. Skeptics point out that there are no official government records confirming the existence of a town called Hoer Verde in Brazil's history. Maps from the era do not mention it, and official archives remain silent. Could it be that the entire story is a myth, passed down through oral traditions and embellished with each retelling? Or is it possible that records were lost, erased, or hidden, leaving only fragments of truth behind? Folklore often serves as a mirror, reflecting the fears and anxieties of the societies that tell it. If Hoer Verde is indeed a legend, what does it represent? Perhaps it speaks to the fear of disappearance, the terror of losing entire communities to forces beyond human control, be it war, disease, or the supernatural. Or maybe it symbolizes the fragility of human existence, the ease with which lives can be wiped away, leaving only questions in their wake. As we peel back the layers of this mystery, one thing is clear. Whether real or imagined, the story of Hoer Verde captures something profoundly unsettling. The idea that 600 people could simply vanish, leaving no bodies, no tracks, and no answers, is terrifying. It forces us to confront the unknown, to question the nature of reality, and to wonder whether there are forces at work in this world that we cannot understand. And so, the legend of Hoer Verde continues to haunt those who hear it. Travelers, researchers, and storytellers alike return to the village in their imagination, searching for clues that may never be found. Perhaps the truth is buried beneath the soil of Brazil, waiting to be unearthed. Or perhaps it was never there at all, existing only in the realm of myth. Either way, the story of Hoer Verde reminds us of the thin line between history and legend, and the mysteries that lurk in the spaces between. In the first part of our journey into the mystery of Hoer Verde, we explored the chilling disappearance of an entire Brazilian village in 1923. 600 people gone without a trace, their homes left intact, their meals abandoned, and a haunting message scrawled on a chalkboard: "There is no salvation." Now, let us go deeper, exploring the theories, the investigations, the parallels to other vanishings, and the lingering shadows this story has left behind. When we confront mysteries like this, our instinct is to look for explanations grounded in logic. But as we peel back the possibilities, we find ourselves spiraling into layers of speculation that blur the line between fact and legend. Let us begin with the most earthly explanation: political turmoil. Brazil in the early 1920s was a land of unrest. Following World War I, the nation experienced economic instability and political disputes that frequently erupted into armed conflicts. The 1923 revolution in Rio Grande do Sul, for instance, left communities torn apart. Some researchers suggest that Hoer Verde may have been caught in the crossfire, with its residents fleeing suddenly to avoid bloodshed. The eerie silence, the abandoned meals, the unfinished lives, could it all have been the result of hurried evacuation? Perhaps the villagers received word of advancing forces and vanished overnight. But this theory struggles to explain the strangest detail: the chalkboard message. If the villagers left to escape conflict, why scrawl such a haunting phrase? "There is no salvation" feels less like a note of hurried departure and more like a statement of doom, of something inescapable. Could it have been a final message from a desperate teacher? Or was it meant to warn anyone who stumbled upon the empty town? Another earthly explanation involves the lure of opportunity. The early 20th century was a time of migration within Brazil. People often abandoned villages in search of better land, richer resources, or safer environments. It's possible that Hoer Verde's people collectively decided to leave, moving together as a unit. But if this were the case, why was there no record of their resettlement? Why leave possessions, food, and livestock behind? Entire migrations usually involve preparation, packing belongings, saying farewells, leaving markers for others. Hoer Verde left nothing but questions. Now let's drift toward the eerie and the unexplained. One of the most persistent theories is that the villagers were taken, not by war or migration, but by something far stranger. Alien abduction theories may seem outlandish, but the scale of Hoer Verde's disappearance makes them oddly compelling. Imagine 600 souls lifted from their homes in a single night, whisked away by forces beyond human comprehension. The empty homes, the abandoned meals. These details could fit such a chilling narrative. Proponents of this theory point to the chalkboard message as evidence. Could "there is no salvation" have been the villagers' final acknowledgement of their fate, an admission that they were powerless against otherworldly visitors? Another theory dips into the concept of dimensional shifts or time slips. Stories of entire groups vanishing into thin air are not confined to Brazil. Folklore across cultures tells of villages that walked into forests and never returned, or armies swallowed by sudden mists. Some suggest that Hoer Verde was caught in such a phenomenon, a portal opening between dimensions, sucking the villagers into a parallel world. The message on the chalkboard, then, could be read as despair, a recognition that they had entered a realm with no way back. Skeptics, of course, argue that the entire story of Hoer Verde may not be real at all. They point out that historical records do not clearly show evidence of the town's existence. No census documents, no official archives, no maps with the village name. Could the story of Hoer Verde have been born from rumor, whispered around campfires, and passed from generation to generation until it took on the shape of reality? Folklore thrives in the absence of proof. The lack of documentation both weakens the case for Hoer Verde's existence and strengthens its allure as a mystery. But if Hoer Verde were merely a myth, why has it endured for so long, inspiring comparisons to other great disappearances in history? Think of Roanoke in North America, where a colony of settlers vanished in the 1500s, leaving only the carved word Croatoan as their legacy. Think of the Anjikuni village in Canada, reportedly discovered abandoned in the 1930s. Its inhabitants vanished, its dogs starved and frozen in the snow. The stories echo across continents, as if humanity itself is haunted by the idea of sudden, collective vanishing. What ties these mysteries together is not just the disappearance, but the silence left behind. Silence is unsettling. It reminds us of absence, of death, of the void that follows when life is abruptly cut short. Standing in Hoer Verde or in Roanoke or Anjikuni, you would hear nothing but the whisper of wind through empty homes. No voices, no laughter, no footsteps, just silence, and in that silence the imagination runs wild. Perhaps that is the true power of Hoer Verde. Whether it was real or not, it taps into one of our deepest fears, the fear of erasure. We fear being forgotten, wiped away, leaving nothing behind but questions. The villagers of Hoer Verde, if they existed, became ghosts not because they died, but because they vanished without explanation. And for those of us left behind, mysteries without answers are the most haunting of all. But let us not dismiss the possibility that fragments of truth lie buried within the legend. What if there was once a small settlement, vulnerable to conflict, disease, or disaster, and its story was exaggerated over time? Oral traditions often magnify reality. A group fleeing political violence could, in the retelling, become a community swallowed by the unknown. The phrase on the chalkboard, "there is no salvation," could have been real, a dramatic flourish added by someone who wanted the story remembered. In this way, Hoer Verde stands as both a historical riddle and a piece of cultural mythology. The villagers' fate may never be known, but the story lives on, carrying with it echoes of human fear and imagination. Whether a factual disappearance or a tale spun from the threads of folklore, it has become a symbol of mystery itself, a reminder of the unknown forces that shape our world. Now, imagine yourself walking through that deserted village. You step into a home and find a table set for dinner. the food spoiled with age, but still there, as though the family would return any moment. You move to the schoolhouse and see the chalkboard with its haunting words, written in a hand that trembles with finality. There is no salvation. You look around for tracks, for signs of struggle, for anything that explains the emptiness. But there is nothing, only silence, only absence, only the weight of a mystery that has defied time itself. And so we arrive at the heart of the enigma. Hoer Verde is more than a place. It is a question that refuses to be answered. Did 600 people truly vanish in 1923? Or is this a legend woven to keep us awake at night? Perhaps we will never know, but maybe that is the point. Mysteries like Hoer Verde endure not because they are solved, but because they resist resolution. They remind us that the world is vast, unpredictable, and full of shadows that defy explanation. The villagers of Hoer Verde, whether real or imagined, have achieved a kind of immortality through mystery. Their story is retold across generations, across continents, across languages. In their silence, they speak louder than most. And as long as people hunger for the unknown, Hoer Verde will live on, not as a name on a map, but as a ghostly reminder of the questions that linger at the edge of human understanding.